Hello, this is U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I'm here live to take your questions. I also have a very important announcement. So I went and checked to see what they're talking about regarding the parole in place. And yes, they have determined a date to start. We still have yet to see details yet, but they are saying that it's going to start on August 19th. Now, they sent out an email just stating that it is going to start August 19th, but that does not mean that you should be sending anything in to immigration before that date. So they will reject your applications if you send it in. They still have yet to come up with a process. So, but for those of you who qualify for this parole in place, it's going to start August 19th. So you can go ahead. What I advise you do is start to get your documentation together, because that is going to be what is going to give you that head start, right? So make sure you get your documents together. The documents that you're going to gather is going to be your marriage certificate, obviously, proof. If you have a child who's going to be applying with you, make sure that you have proof of the relationship with the U.S. citizen parent, as well as, of course, proof of their relationship with you as the child. You're going to want to make sure that you include your identification. That's going to be a government issued ID. So it could be a foreign driver's license, a local driver's license. It could be your passport, your birth certificate presented along with a photo identification. You're going to also include proof that you have resided in the United States for the past 10 years, up until June 17, 2024. And this is where they do provide an extensive list of what documents you can provide to show your continuous residence in the United States for those years. So it's going to include things like your lease agreements, your tax returns, medical records, birth certificates of children born here in the United States, mortgage statements, if you have mortgage statements. It's going to be insurance policies, school records. So these are some. Also, if say you have very limited documentation, they are open to receiving documents from religious entities and organizations attesting to the fact that they know that you've been residing in the United States for the past 10 years. And based on my own experience with this process, they have accepted from me affidavits from friends and family attesting to the fact that you were living in the United States for those years. So you can have multiple people talk about the time periods that you were living in the United States, that they met you, that they knew you, that they saw you all the time. So those are just some examples. It's the list that they gave. It's a great list. It's on the USCIS website, but it's not necessarily exclusive either. So is on a case-by-case basis, which means that whatever evidence you have to show that you have been residing in the US is going to be essential. If I didn't mention tax returns can also count here. And this is where filing your taxes, even though it doesn't normally grant you an immigration benefit, it can be beneficial to you when these times come where you have to show that you've been here in the United States. It can also show good moral character, show that you have been trying to comply with the law. So those are the documents. Start gathering those documents now, so you can get started. One thing to note here is that, and they do have an FAQ listed, by the way. So if you have any questions, and I have seen a lot of the questions that I'm getting. It's also listed on the USCIS website. One of those is, well, does anybody who overstay their visa qualify for this? And no, it does. It just those who enter the country without permission qualifies for parole in place. Reason being, if you're married to a US citizen, then guess what? You can just skip the parole in place process and jump straight into getting your green card. The parole in place process is there to help immigrants who came into the country without permission be able to submit their get legal permission to be here, and that allows them to submit an adjustment of status application. So it's a two-step process for them. If your spouse is refusing to apply for your papers, your green card, then VAWA is going to be the best option here. So it doesn't change the fact that VAWA is going to be the best option if your spouse is stopping you from getting the green card. I mean, we have to talk more about your facts and circumstances, but when a spouse is refusing to get you the green card, that's usually a very, very big red flag here that something is wrong in the marriage, and you're probably on the receiving end of it. All right, so let me go ahead. I'm going to answer questions. So put those questions in the comments now. So I'm going to go through quickly. This is going to be a shorter live, just because it's coming to the end of the day, and I have to close out early. But I'll be back on Monday again to answer questions. So can get a work permit without an I-94. Yes, it's possible if you can show your legal entry. And in some cases, like the VAWA, you don't need to show an I-94 because some of my clients didn't enter with an I-94. So it's fine. It just depends on what you're applying for. Um, Please, can you help to apply in immigration after securing admission? Absolutely, but we need to talk about what you qualify for. If I came to the US on farm work and I didn't go back to my home country, can I get a work permit? No, it's going to depend on what you qualify for. What were your circumstances? I need to understand that in a consultation to be able to assist you with options. How about if you marry to permanent resident? So, no, this parole in place does not apply to spouses of permanent residents. Unfortunately, it doesn't extend to them. When you file I-824 and the biometrics, what next? So then they're probably going to move straight on to the decision afterwards. If I came to America in 2006, can I get work permit in 2024? Now, we've helped clients to be able to get their status, get their work permit, get their green card, even after they've been in the US this long without their papers. But to do that, we need to understand, to be able to confirm whether you qualify, we need to understand your circumstances. There are many ways, but we won't be able to tell you unless we can speak with you in a consultation. We have experienced immigration attorneys that are working with this firm to be able to help as many people as possible. By the way, this past month, we've had 150 consultations, and we're looking to help a lot more individuals to get their papers. We're that serious. So we have I and multiple attorneys. We have attorney Bria, and we have another attorney coming on board to be able to help with options to go forward. So we're serious, but we need you to reach out to be able to schedule that time so we can understand your circumstances and give you some options. Only for persons here for 10 years. And what about the newcomers? So, unfortunately, it doesn't include anybody who has been residing for less than 10 years up to June 17th, 2024. Now, keep in mind that this is for spouses and children of US citizens. But if you're having an issue with your spouse, they're not cooperating with you, that's when it's time to call me. Let's get to VAWA. We're also going to be working with those who qualify for parole in place to get them through this process fast and smoothly. It starts August 19th, so get on it. If you qualify for this based on what you're hearing, or you want to find out if you qualify, doesn't matter if you have um, a criminal record or you have something in your background, it's best to talk to us to determine whether you can still qualify for this. You want to hit the ground running, so make sure you do that because August 19th is the start time. Can I get green card if I have a B1, B2 visa and not out of status? No, you can't go from visitor's visa to green card. You have to qualify in some way, through family, through an employer. There has to be some way that you can qualify. If a person is residing in the US with a green card for over 8 years but would like to apply for citizenship, but they said person is illiterate, what are options? So if the person is unable to read and write because they have a learning disability, that can happen. They should have it diagnosed and they can then take that and apply for a disability waiver where they would waive the testing, the requirements to read and write based on the disability. Can I work? Can I get a work permit if I come to the US on farm work and didn't go back to my country? I answered that it depends on your circumstances. Give us a call. We help clients through this. Would be qualified for EB2 NIW with a business admin bachelor's degree and 14 years working in banking, considering the degree is not STEM. So the EB2 National Interest Waiver is not just limited to STEM, that's science, engineering, technology, and math. It does include business, right? So it just depends though. The most important thing when it comes to national interest waiver are your goals. So once we determine you qualify, so with a bachelor's degree and 14 years, that means you would could fall within the category where, or the exception where you have your bachelor's degree and you have more than 5 years of experience in the field. But the next thing that we'd have to look at is what are the goals that you're coming here to achieve? Is that going to be beneficial to the United States? And does it justify the US waiving the job sponsorship process to be able to give you the green card? So it's very specific on a case by case basis, and we have to understand, your qualifications, but also your goals. I have all my EAD, but my partner and I have been unable to attend any interviews, hence I'm stuck without green card. I want to find out more about that. Why are you not able to attend an interview? Is it because of your spouse? I would love to help you, but we have to understand. What are some signs to know if VAWA approval is near? So right now, we just look out for the decision. No, for VAWA, for the actual VAWA petition, no news is good news. So when it comes to the time, we're not getting any RFEs and the time is approaching, it means that that decision is coming close. When it comes on to knowing a decision, um, I just know based on my intuition, based on the strength of the case, that is likely to be approved. And then for me, it's just knowing when that decision is going to come, which is it. I go by the timeline, the time it takes, which is 2.5 years to 3 years for the VAWA petition to be approved. I can't wait to call you soon. Awesome. Give me a call. I can't wait to talk to you. Can one appeal after 20 years overstay to apply without leaving the US? Can one appeal after 20 years overstay? So I'm not, it just depends, what caused the overstay. Who is eligible to get a T visa? So I say this, it's really on a case by case basis. It's so, broad. But what I'll say is, first, if you have been in a situation where someone else made you feel trapped, stuck, and were exploiting you at the same time, making you feel like you couldn't leave the situation, and you don't have your papers because of that, or they did it based on your immigration status. This could be an employer, it could be an intimate partner, could be an acquaintance, could be landlord, could be anybody who used you and then kept you trapped, made you feel like you couldn't leave the situation, made you feel as if they had power over you. Then if you can relate to a situation like that, it's time to give us a call and talk about it, because you could very well qualify for T. Um, how long should you be work at least to apply for a US visa? So there's no rule that says you have to work for a long time. If I'm married to a permanent resident and don't have an I-94, can you get the work permit? Um, so y- if you enter the country legally, you can get the work permit as long as you qualify for the work permit. What we do is, if we don't have an I-94, which the I-94 is usually easy to pull off of the website, but if you don't have an I-94, you can use proof of your entry through entry stamps or showing the visa that you used to enter. I've been in the country for over 10 years. I'm married to a US citizen. I came in the country through F1 visa. So if you came in with a visa, you would not qualify for the parole in place process. Um, Now, the question is, why is it that your US citizen spouse hasn't just applied for your green card? That's the real question here. Let's get to the bottom of that in a consultation, and then we can figure out how to get you your papers. Because if you came in with a visa, even if you overstayed and now you're married to a US citizen, you be able to apply directly for that green card. Can I use biometrics receipt to get a job? No, you can't. Um, what is a National Benefit Center? It's just one of the USCIS centers where they process the applications. When someone overstayed their visa, does immigration search for them? That's not happening right now. So I mean, in some cases they may, if they're high risk, but in many cases we don't see that just happening. There has to be a reason for them to be searching for you, because they do have they right now they have a priority enforcement priority list that they go by, where they do prioritize certain individuals who are a harm to public safety, national security. For They prioritize them for deportation. Good afternoon. I've scheduled an interview. Is it possible to get an earlier date? So, my schedule is filled up. It's filled to the brim. Where we are providing consultations to over 100 people a month. But what I can say is, I am expanding the options so that we can help as many people as possible. So we have additional attorneys that will be joining, and these attorneys are experienced just like me and work very closely with me to determine your eligibility. So if you want to call and find out if you can get an earlier date than August 14th with another attorney other than myself, we can do that. So give us a call and we can work through that. We were unable to attend interview because partner became available. So yeah, if you need help, especially if your spouse is giving you a problem, it's time to call. I've been let's see. What do I need for me to qualify for work permit, especially when your workplace does not help sponsoring you? So, what for one, if your workplace promised that they were going to sponsor you, and then now you're finding out that that was not true, that could be fraud. And if it induced you to work for them based on that promise, you relied on that promise and worked for them and overstayed, then you could qualify here for relief. How long does it take for adjustment of status from F1 after marriage to a citizen? So I'd say 10 to 12 months, and you may get your green card in the mail if you present the right application. What's the price for marriage-based green card? So we do consultations first to determine your qualifications, case type, and then we can provide you the code. How long does it take for the J1 212E waiver? So about a year and a half right now. Passport with a visa was stolen. I'm so sorry. That sucks. If I have a US citizen child over 21, I'm still in status. How soon can the child file while I'm still in status? So if you have a US citizen, so they're not considered children once they're over 21. I know we all consider, no matter how big our kids get, we're going to consider them children. But for immigration purposes, that child over 21 is going to fall into a different category. So they may not qualify. So oh, okay. I have a US citizen child over 21. I'm still in status. How soon can the child file? Okay. Sorry, I misunderstood that. So your child can file for you right away. I would just be wary of the 90-day rule. That's usually that rule that says you shouldn't be applying for anything within 90 days of your entry because they could then accuse you of intending to change, intending to come into the country and change your status. So where you change your mind, that's all good and well. But if you file your papers within 90 days, they're going to assume you made the choice while you are entering the country on a visa to to apply for permanent residence, and they categorize that as misrepresentation or fraud, because remember, when you enter with your visa, you're not supposed to plan to stay. So NVC taking so long, can adjustment my status in Florida. I have a B1 B2. It depends. So get definitely talk to us in our consultation, because what I would say, under no circumstance should you overstay. Check with me, because if your priority date is current and you're here on a current visa, you may very well be able to change over to adjustment of status. But everything has to fall into place just right for that to happen. What's happening on August 19th? Parole, the Biden's expanded parole in place for spouses and children of US citizens will start. So they're going to start accepting applications by that date. Um, how long does it take to hear back from USCIS after submission of documents and being married to permanent resident? About 2 weeks. How long after applying for VAWA does it take to get work permit? I'd say 6 to 12 months. Can I file for my mom who comes to take care of my newborn baby for a green card? If you're a US citizen, 21 or older, then you can file for your mom. Always though, get legal advice, because I'm not your attorney. I'm just giving you general information. How can I prove that I had a visa if my passport was stolen with the visa in it? So it just depends on what you're applying for. Um, I'm pretty sure they have on their record as well. Department of State has the visa on record, so there are ways to show it. But you can also pull your I-94, but I don't know if you have your passport, so it's going to depend. How long does it take to adjust status of a minor child who entered the US on a visitor's visa as an LPR parent? So keep in mind that if that minor child is now out of status, they will not qualify for to adjust status unless they maintain their status up until the time they applied for the adjustment of status application and the priority date was current at the time. So you have to be very careful. I would say relatives of permanent residents have to be a lot more careful about applying for adjustment of status. While being here, everything has to be right. Oh, thank you so much for that. I appreciate that compliment. All right, so let's go here. So bravo for all you do. Thank you. Please, is it safe to be approved to use approved I-131 advanced parole to travel if you have a pending adjustmental status application? Generally, that's what it's there for. It's there to allow you to travel, but your risk is going to differ just based on your circumstances. For example, if I had a client who is who has a deportation order out on them, for example, I would be wary to allow to make them travel. So it just depends. It depends. Glad to hear your podcast. My mom, who was a U.S. citizen, filed for my bro. However, she died last year before his case was resolved. What are the options? If his petition was approved, then there is what's called a humanitarian reinstatement that can still work here. In VAWA, EAD and AP transferred from Nebraska to Vermont. Even in Nebraska, it takes 3 months, but in Vermont, it takes 8 months. Why? Because the processing times are just different based on the USCIS's field office, workload. My child birth papers work for proof PIP. I've been here since 1991. So yeah, to be able to show your no, it depends, right? If you're the spouse of a US citizen, um, then okay, so I see what you're saying for the 10-year continuous residence. So that's going to be one of the pieces of evidence that you can show. So you'll have to show, so your children's birth certificate is going to definitely be a very important one. But in addition to that, you're going to want more. Definitely talk to us, schedule your appointment, and we can help you to put this together easily and smoothly. Can having my existing business to the USA hire foreign workers, can that help with the green card? Having a business here, if you're out of status, is not going to, it's not going to lead to the green card. But uh, if you play your cards right and you invest and you qualify, you can get an investment um, green card. I'm in removal and my wife is US citizen and we married 14 years. Do I qualify? Yes. Even if you're in removal, you can still qualify for this. So they have made it official that if you are currently in removal proceedings, you can still apply for this. So give us a call. Let's get started on your case. Do you know how much time it takes to apply for fiance visa when you come on an immigration visa? So fiance visas you can't do in the US. You have to be outside of the US for that. And it takes about a year and a half to 2 years. Okay, I have my interview in Ciudad Juarez this August, but I just received approval for AP suggestion. So now, based on this, you may be applying for the I-601 um, A waiver. If you feel more comfortable with staying here and applying for PIP, then you want to definitely. Um, this is a hard one. Just because you have the interview coming up, it's your opportunity. But if I would say it's dependent on your risk factors, most people don't want to leave. And if you don't want to leave, you can apply, you can put up with this additional delay in processing because now you're going to have to go through PIP. And then after PIP, you can apply for adjustment of status. You're going to then have to wait again to get the green card versus I don't know your situation, I don't know your risk factor, but versus doing this in August and coming back with coming back as a green card holder. So it just depends on what makes you comfortable, what's the level of risk that you're willing to face. Can having my existing, so I answered that. Does claiming false citizenship disqualify you from parole in place? No, it doesn't. So what happens here is parole in place may still be granted. It's granted on a case by case basis, but you still may not be able to get through to adjustment of status process because false citizenship claim is permanent barred with with very limited options for a waiver. How long does the process take when you're a citizen and filing for your over 21 daughter? It's still taking about 5 to 7 years. How long does it take for an I-130 petition to get approved? About 9 to 12 months. What does it mean when USCIS states that a file forwarded to State Department for visa processing? It means that your petition was probably approved and now it's being sent to the National Visa Center. Can I expedite my I-765 in VAWA? Yes, it's possible if you can show the reason why you need an emergency expedite. As a tourist visiting the US for the first time in 3 months, is 3 months too long of a stay? Not necessarily. It just depends on your circumstances. Why I cannot work until I get a work permit by asylum? So they don't usually hold working without a permit. They don't hold it against asylum applicants, right? It's not permitted, but it's not held against you. It's not going to be a cause for denial. I don't know what your circumstances are, but usually it's one of the things of least concern for me is working without a permit as an asylum applicant because it's not consequential to the application. 5-year working permit. Yes, they're issuing 5-year working permits. Um, So if you want to get married to your US citizen girlfriend, absolutely. Keep in mind there's nothing that says you can't do that, but make sure that you go forward with all the information and evidence that you need. What happened after immigration give you 2 years working permit and it expires and then sent you, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Why I can answer. How long does it take to get a work permit and travel document after filing VAWA? 6 to 12 months. Is biometric fee included in the I-485 application fee? You should add the biometrics fee to that. So they have the base adjustment of status and then the biometrics fee. Can someone who entered the country illegally married to a US citizen have to apply for visa from the NVC? So they just released that someone who entered the country illegally, who's married to a US citizen, is now qualifies for parole in place. Parole in place means that you get to stay here. After you get parole in place, you can apply for your green card through adjustment of status because now it goes from illegal entry to now they're giving you permission to be here. So you would be a very good example of who qualifies. So get in touch with us. August 19th is the date that they have announced. My boyfriend is a green card holder. What can I do to join him? And he is not yet a citizen. So you'd have to get married and he would have to petition for you. What happens if USCIS comes to my and my spouse's home and we are at work and one of us is at work? So usually in that case where they do come, sometimes they want to see some form of evidence that you and the spouse live together. Sometimes they'll even ask the neighbors or they'll ask the landlord. So it just depends on what the situation is. What's the waiting time for I-751? So 2 to 4 years. What happens if USCIS comes to, so I answered that. Can having my existing business, I answered that. What happens? Um, I-485 and I-130 after interview, I-130 approved, I-485 still pending. What's the next step? You have to wait for the I-485 to be approved. Where's your location? We're in Delray Beach. We have an office in Boca Raton. They're both in Florida. They're neighboring towns. But we do represent clients all over the country. So this is our base. But the firm is a national firm. Do you need work experience for EB2 NIW? That's going to be very, very helpful. It's going to be hard getting a national interest waiver without showing meaningful experience. F4 under review, it's going to 2 years. When do I expect a response? So it depends on your priority date. Answer that. Can someone who marry a U.S. citizen still have apply for a visa from the NVC? So I think I answered your question already. Receive my advance parole. Should I be concerned when coming back to the U.S.? The advance parole is there for you to come back into the country, but it depends on your risk level. Most of my clients are fine, but in some cases, if there's a higher risk that my client is going to have an issue, then we'll talk about it. How long does the I-824 typically take? About a year to year and a half. So I answered that. When green card holder and was a green card holder and filed for my wife, I'm now a citizen. How long would my wait be? They'll start processing your wife's application as soon as you update them that you're now a citizen. So if your spouse is outside of the US, you need to notify the National Visa Center, send them evidence of your citizenship, and they're going to start processing. They're not going to wait for her immigrant visa number to become available. They're going to process it right away. What happens if USCIS comes to my spouse's home? So I answered that. I have seen those go wrong, go south. So I've gotten calls from people who say that they will come, and if one person isn't at home, that can be a big problem. All right, let me know on Instagram if you can hear me. I overstayed my visa. Let me know if on Instagram, can somebody just let me know if you can hear me? Hi, in VAWA, EAD and AP transferred from Nebraska to Vermont. Even in Nebraska, it takes 3 months, but in Vermont, it takes 8 months. Why? It just depends on the workload. Okay, good. You can hear. All right, so let me answer this question. I've overstayed my visa 3 years now after domestic abuse, hence marriage didn't work out. Is there another way to get my green card apart from marriage? So now let's talk. Yeah, because you possibly have options. We found options for our clients in your situation, but we have to understand what the case was. It was your citizen spouse. Was your spouse a citizen? What when you were overstayed? What led to the overstay? What happened leading up to domestic violence and abuse? And then we can determine what the option would be. But I would say just hearing this alone, we found options, but we need to talk to you. So go to the link in the profile. If you want to schedule your appointment, can do that ASAP. Go to the link in the profile. You will see the link to schedule your own appointments. Do that ASAP, and we can talk. Schedule is filling up, so I want to be able to help you. But you have to do that by taking action and going to the link in the profile or calling the office. I'm going to put my number up on the screen on YouTube and Facebook so you can see what the number is. And then on Instagram and TikTok, my number is all over the videos. It's also on the website. So if you click on our website, click on contact us, you'll see the number there as well. We have many different ways for you to get in touch with us. All right. What happens? So let's see. I'm still scrolling through. I see the Jamaican flag there. Good evening to you, my dear. My kids are back in Jamaica. How can I get them here in New York? We need to talk. So I don't have enough information to tell you that, but I do have my clients who have been in the same situation and they're now with their kids. So we need to understand what your situation is and how you can qualify and how the kids can qualify. Can my US citizen wife who don't have a place on her own still file a green card petition for you? So now there may be an issue or questions about living together. So we'd have to understand your situation. I mean, it's possible, but we have to understand what your living arrangements are. My son overstay his visa. I file an I-130 for him. Can he get a work permit? He's 23 years old. We need to talk. The I-130 is not going to get him the work permit, but we need to talk to him to find out what the circumstances are. There may be alternative options. Um, All right, so I'm going to head out. After the PIP application is in, how long is the process? So based on my experience, it's about 3 to 6 months for the parole in place. Now, keep in mind that this is slated to benefit over 500,000 immigrants here. So we have to see how the processing times are going to be. That's why I say apply early, hit the ground running, get in touch with the office, schedule your appointment because August 19th is when they're saying that they're going to get started. So we want to hit the ground running and you want to apply early. You don't want to be on the tail end of the 500,000 people. You want to be, and they tend to process applications first come, first serve. So make sure that you are ahead of the game. Can you move to another state while your case is filed in another? Yes, because most cases are filed in another state anyway. After being approved for work permit, how long does before Social Security comes? I've even been seeing Social Security numbers coming before, but I would say could be 2 weeks after, 2 to 3 weeks after, if it comes after. If I come to the USA on a visitor visa overstay, can I get paperwork with marriage to a US citizen? Yes, that's possible. I've been here in the US for 3 years. Can I give affidavit of support to someone? Yes, as a green card holder, yes, you can. Hello, can I get green card after being in the US for 2.5 years as an 18-year-old? Unfortunately, there's no option to just automatically get the green card because of the length of time you've been here. I overstayed my time, got married to a citizen. Can I get a green card? Yes. But we have to understand all the circumstances involved to confirm that. But generally, yes, that is a way to get the green card. All right. Thanks again, everyone. So you live in your uncle's place. So let's talk. Mohammed, schedule some time with us. Let's talk about your circumstances and we can figure out if there are any options available. All right. Thanks, everyone, for your time. I'll be back on Monday. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Have a good weekend. Bye bye.